Salvete discipuli, welcome to third year Latin and Unit 3 in the Cambridge Latin course. Unit 3 is especially going to be hitting some concepts like participles, which are really important in Latin. So we're going to spend a bit of time on that before moving on to anything else. So we reviewed present participles at the very end of Latin 2 last year. As it points out in your book, this is the same stuff that you'll see on page 9 in your book. In stage 20, we met sentences like servi per villam contenderant, dominum quaerentes, right? The slaves hurried through the house, and quaerentes is a participle, looking for their master. Or we might say while looking for their master. Or puella matrem in horto sedentem videt. The girl saw her mother sitting in the garden. And as we talked about, present participles, when they modify a noun, what they're telling us is that the action in the participle is happening at the same time as the action of the main verb. So the slaves are hurrying in the first sentence and while they are looking. Or the girl saw her mother, she was looking at her mother while she was sitting. So now in stage 21, we're going to do sentences like memor. A liberto excitatus, iratissimus erat. Memor, having been awakened by his freedman, or the freeman, was very angry. Or thermae, a Romanis aedificatae, maximi erant. The baths, having been built by the Romans, were very large. The words in boldface, those are perfect passive participles. Another way to think about this is to do the first sentence like this. Memor iratissimus erat. Memor was very angry. Why? A liberto excitatus. He was awakened by his freedman. So the awakening, that took place ahead of the main verb. Or in the second sentence, thermae maxima erant. The baths were very large, or very big. Which baths? The ones that had been built by the Romans. And we can see it's a perfect passive participle. It happened before the time of the main verb. So, participles describe nouns, right? Like in paragraph 2, excitatus describes memor. And this way they behave like adjectives. So they give you some other examples here. Faber ab architecto laudatus recit. The craftsman, having been praised by the architect, smiled or laughed. Fabria ab architecto laudati riserunt. The craftsman, having been praised by the architect, smiled. So again, we see with perfect passive participles, the action is taking place ahead of the main verb. So let's look at these sentences under 4. Servus. A domino verberatus ex opido fugit. The slave. Which one? The one having been beaten or punished by his master, fled out of the town or fled the town. Or nuntii, a rege arcesisti rem terribilem naraverunt. The announcers or the heralds, having been called by the king, told a terrible story or told about a terrible thing. Or ancilla, a quinto laudata, laetissima erat. The slave girl, having been praised by Quintus, was very happy. Or templum, a fabris peritis aedificatum, erat splendidum. The temple, having been built, right, by skilled craftsmen, was splendid, or maybe even magnificent. Or milites, ab hostibus vulnerati, thermas visitare volerunt. The soldiers, having been wounded by the enemies, or by their enemies, wanted to visit the baths. Or uxor, a marito vexata, e vila discessit. The wife, having been vexed or bothered by her husband, left the villa or went out of the villa. So you don't need to draw the lines, but you can see how that works there. So perfect passive participles, they can be translated a number of ways, right? So they give some examples of that in your book. These are on page 10 for you to see, right? So and you're going to want to make sure that your translations, that I can tell that you understand the concept, but they also have a natural feel to them. So what I want you to do is I want you to do that worksheet that I gave you. It's called Perfect Passive Participles. The easiest way to do these is, and if you don't know them, is simply to look them up in your textbook. These are all on the vocabulary starting on page 293. So for laudo, laudare, laudavi, you can, if you look up laudo in the back of your book, you'll see it'll give the four principal parts, the fourth one being the perfect passive participle. So we can see it goes laudo, laudari, laudavi, laudatus. So, or this next one, suscipio, suscipere, suscepi, or suscepi, and then you look up the fourth one, you see it's susceptus, or vulnero, vulnerare, vulneravi, vulneratus. First conjugation is always very regular. So that's what I want you to do. You can do that worksheet for me, and then you can submit it.